Hello, everyone. We are live and we are here for this week's What's Up Wednesday, where we are going live with you on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about our upcoming 21st Annual International Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference, hosted virtually on September 18th through the 20th. And we are officially in August now. So we are 1 month closer to the conference coming up here in about 6 weeks. So we are very excited. My name is Anna Schramm. I am the conference planner working at the University of Toledo's Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute. And today we have a special guest with us. Amanda Knapp is a PhD candidate in public affairs at Florida International University, focusing her research on human trafficking policy. So hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes. So today we are focusing on our research presentations at the conference. As we've been talking about these last several weeks on these What's Up Wednesdays, we are a very diverse conference and have many topics to choose from and learn about, one of those being research presentations. So before we get into that, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah. So I am a third-year PhD candidate. I'm set to defend in October, so I'm very excited about
Exciting.
that. And I also am a full-time employee at FIU, Florida International University, where I study. Our coordinator for civic leadership. So my main job is getting students educated and inspired to vote. I teach a course on civics. I do a lot of workshops. And then we have a lot of events, especially this coming fall with the upcoming election. But I try to do everything through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to give students a framework and a perspective that's larger than just in the South Florida area, but that also they can bring back home here. And we do focus on issues of social justice. And I always try to bring human trafficking into the discussion when I can.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really glad that you're doing that work and with that policy lens and that policy focus. So you also do a lot of research specifically with human trafficking and in the policy world. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of having research related sessions at a conference, or also why research is just so important in the anti-trafficking and social justice fields?
Yeah. So there's different type of conferences out there. And I think conferences are so important because it brings us all together. We have different backgrounds and experiences. In some conferences, like the upcoming one in September, the International Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference, we not only hear from practitioners and researchers, but we also hear from survivors. So all of these perspectives are really important. But in order to really understand if we're making progress on these issues, we really need data-driven research. So having research at conferences provides evidence-based information that allows us to establish if the programs and policies are actually making strides or we need to reevaluate them. And then specifically in human trafficking and social justice, these topics are really important and they're difficult because they usually deal with humans, people. So specifically with human trafficking, it's a very secretive crime. And in most cases, it goes unnoticed or unidentified. So research is really important in this realm. So any type of evidence-based knowledge that we have that can provide practitioners and survivors at conferences, I think it's really crucial to the movement.
Yeah, that's so well put. And, research is really behind a lot of the programs that we have, programs that people, work in and see, and even research behind policies, research, that's used in grants. So it really is very integral in a lot of these different areas that sometimes people might not think about. But we actually do work with researchers all year round in outside of the conference in our Global Association of Human Trafficking Scholars, and that acronym we call it GATS. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what GATS is and the purpose of it?
Yeah, definitely. So when I started researching human trafficking with my master's about 10 years ago, I was totally alone in the issue. I could never meet anyone, no one on campus. It was, I would say, a newer issue in the higher education world. And then when I started my PhD, I still felt super alone. And then, as I always do as I'm researching, I get like caught down this rabbit hole, and I have no idea how I found GATS. But when I did, I immediately got involved. I went to the first meeting, and right away I just felt like I had a home. And I started feeling like my research had more meaning because other people cared about it, and I got to learn from other people. I mean, we have monthly meetings, we have committees, we have networking opportunities, we have a wonderful member portal that all of our members get access to the Journal of Human Trafficking for free. We even now have a lower level where you could be a survivor, or just you could be, you don't know like much about trafficking. Like, for example, I invite my students sometimes to come, and it's a gateway for them to be able to get more involved in GATS. So really, for undergrad and graduate students, it's a great opportunity if they're really unsure, because they're not receiving support in their department, or their university doesn't have a human trafficking program. GATS is just a great place to meet people from all around the world.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you found us. You're a part of GATS, and that you mentioned all of those great resources and perks that GATS has to offer. And we try to make it, helpful for our members to be able to access the journal and access funding opportunities, job opportunities, things that they might not have access to, especially if they're not a part of an academic institution, because some things are behind paywalls. So try to make this all very accessible, because we need to be doing this anti-trafficking research as we have just talked about. So if you want to learn more about GATS, want to become a member, our website's really easy. It's just GATS.com. That's GAHTS.com. Go on there, learn about us if you want to become a part of GATS, and then you can join our work all year round and not just what we do at the conference. But now, getting back into our conference, you have been involved in the conference for a couple years now. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience with our conference and why you keep coming back?
Of course. The same thing. My department really pushed back on human trafficking when I was researching it. It wasn't really easy for me in the beginning of my PhD. I didn't really have any mentors or support. I did go to conferences, public administration and political science. And when I was presenting, they would put me in panels that were very odd. And even though my topic might have been labor trafficking, they put me in a woman gender panel, or something just had nothing to do with social justice. So I just felt really always out of place. So when I found the conference for human trafficking and social justice, I just felt like, wow, these people are really going to appreciate my research, and I'll be able to also learn from them. Because I would go to some really, really large conferences, and not one other person in political science or public administration, where you would think people would be researching human trafficking, because that's our legislation, our public officials, our administrators. And if we're not doing that research in that realm, I don't know how we're going to move forward. So the International Human Trafficking Conference just really brings it all together, where I can learn from practitioners and survivors. And, research is great, but sometimes it also needs that real life perspective. And then also additionally, there's great networking opportunities of the breakout rooms at lunchtime. There's different sponsors, so you can really, really learn a lot. They have the conference has awards, so it's really cool. And again, it's people from all around the world. And I've had the opportunity to interview some people from the United Kingdoms, and the way they're doing their human trafficking research is so different than the way we're doing. I think we're behind in some areas, So while I know we're doing a great job in the United States, we can really always learn from other countries and the problems they're having and how they're fixing it. So the conference, it's really great for anyone who's currently involved or really wants to learn more about trafficking. And so
Awesome. Yeah. Again, really well put. We're glad that you do keep coming back and you actually are presenting at this year's conference. Your presentation is titled An Investigation of Florida's Human Trafficking Arrest and Prosecutorial Process. So I know you're going to be covering a lot of great information in that session, but can you give our listeners just a brief overview of what you're going to be talking about in your session?
Yeah, definitely. I'm super excited because it is a project I've been working on for 2 years. It started as something else. So everything is just like put into it. There's many different angles, but the big picture, the real thing that I was looking at was why there are so little arrests and convictions in Florida. Florida is currently rated number 3 in the country for receiving hotline calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. We receive over 1,000 calls per year. And then we also have something called the Department of Children and Family Services Minor Human Trafficking Hotline that most people don't even know about. But there's over 2,000 reports of minor victims per year. It's predominantly more sex trafficking, about 1,500, and then about 400 labor trafficking minor victims. But I started just wondering, like, how are all these calls happening? How is this happening to children? And then in Florida, since the legislation passed in 2004, since we only had our first arrest in 2011, since then we've only had an average of 7 convictions per year.
Wow.
In total, since 2011, we've only had 81 human trafficking convictions. And I'll repeat, the law was codified in 2004. And there has not been one labor trafficking conviction.
Wow.
So yeah, so I just couldn't understand. I still can't understand that. That's what made me investigate the topic. So I examined different state and federal legislation, specifically in Florida, and I look at the federal arrests and convictions because that data was available, and then the state convictions, and I compare both of those data sets to both hotline statistics. And some other underlining themes that I do look at as well is that Florida focuses on blaming immigration for the cause of human trafficking. Also, law enforcement, cultural barriers to victim identification, the burden of proof, and the main focus on the victim's testimony, and then forgotten victims, such as boys, men, and labor trafficking victims. So one great thing about the project, and I hope to, make it public, is I created a data set from all of the state convictions because that was what was available. And that allowed me to examine how plea deals are used and then what causes prosecutors to offer those plea deals. Because you'll see at the conference that while I say there's no true labor trafficking conviction cases, prosecutors use labor trafficking for plea deals instead of sex trafficking. So we'll go into that. But I also had the qualitative perspective. I interviewed 34 different stakeholders from law enforcement, state prosecutors, victim advocates, and private attorneys. So we got both sides of the perspectives. So it does really provide this unique and comprehensive view of the justice system and prosecutorial process in Florida. So I'm really excited to share it because I do believe there are true hurdles that we have in our state legislation that disadvantage victims. And until we can get this data and evidence, our legislators are just going to continue on this current path. And I do believe the research is easy to replicate. So it would be interesting to also eventually possibly make it like a nationwide investigation.
Yeah. Well, I already feel like I learned a lot in those couple minutes that you described that. So I'm sure you're going to be sharing so much more great information. And that's going to be such an amazing session and very important for not only the state of Florida, but others who are interested in that to go back to their own state or even in their own countries and do something similar. So if you want to hear more about what Amanda is going to present on, go to our website, traffickingconference.com/register, to make sure you are registered for the conference. I do want to highlight a couple of the other research related presentations that people could attend at the conference. Remember, you have over 100 breakout sessions to choose from at the conference. So this is just a couple that I'm going to be listing now. Remember that also all of the presentations are recorded. And so if you have registered, you can watch the recordings for up to 3 weeks after the conference. So, 100 sessions is a lot. You have to choose some of them to watch live. And so if you want to go back, watch them after, you have those 3 weeks that you can go through and watch all of that content. So you'll want to make sure that you are registered. But a couple of the ones that I want to mention now are Jarrett Davis and Wendy Stiver will be presenting on using AI to enhance meaningful survivor-led research. Ezekiel Dominguez and Dr. Dominique Rosepowitz will discuss their findings from a comprehensive analysis of labor trafficking cases in the United States, a 12-year review. Then Dr. Anjanette Alhayano-Steele and Caro Napolitano will present Beyond the Count, community-led data-sustaining anti-trafficking partnerships and response. Dr. David Corliss will be discussing his statistical analysis of risk factors for international forced labor and child labor. And then research team, Dr. Kimberly Hogan, Dr. Sunny Wells, Dr. Gretchen Good, Dr. Rebecca Levine, and Tommy Killen will present their research study on educational experiences, attainment, and aspirations of adolescent female trafficking survivors in a residential facility. So these are going to be great sessions, and we do have several other research-related presentations. So you're going to want to make sure that you check out our full schedule. You can find that. We already have all of that up, all of the sessions. You can read through them all, find out which ones that you like. Go to our website, traffickingconference.com/schedule, and you can read all about our research presentations as well as all of the other topics that we have. So, Amanda, is there anything else that you'd like to add or any final thoughts that you have before we wrap up today?
I just hope that more and more people become more aware of trafficking. I hope they realize that trafficking is happening in their community, and that trafficking victims could be your neighbors, could live on your street. And the more knowledge that we all get on this topic, the more we'll be able to prevent it and reduce it. So I really hope any students out there really get involved with GATS and join the conference. So well, I love GATS in general, but I'm very excited about the conference. So I hope to see people there.
Awesome. Yes, we hope you join us at the conference and at GATS if you're interested. And Amanda, thank you for joining me today on our What's Up Wednesday and talking about your presentation. Remember, we are joining you live on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time throughout the rest of the summer to talk about our upcoming conference. We're going to continue to highlight some of the sessions that you can attend and all of the topics that you can learn from. Next week, we're going to have special guest Rebecca Bundy on with us, and we'll be focusing on our legal and law enforcement sessions at the conference. So if you want to learn more about us, learn more about what we do, look at the schedule, register, anything you want to know about the conference, go to our website, traffickingconference.com. We'll look forward to seeing you at the conference in September, but hopefully you'll join us back here next week for another What's Up Wednesday. So thank you everyone for joining today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.